This week on the Fan Lebitard Show, gotta address the elephant in the room. Billy Gill is gone. Welcome to the Fan Lebitard Show with Nasty Nate. We're back. You might have been wondering, Nasty Nate, some of the biggest news ever in the show's history is happening. You're gone. Well, if you listen to God Bless Highlight, you heard my list of crazy things that happened in the life. Kids getting sick, family getting sick, problems with the house, problems with the car. Forgot to even mention our dog died. COVID, Super Bowl week, Dano, all that stuff. But that kind of took away all the time to do like a longer episode to actually talk about things. If you follow the YouTube channel, I was still putting out shorts about sports. That's something money. Been making a good little chunk of change doing that too. But here we are. It's episode time. We have got to talk about probably, is this the biggest thing that's ever happened? Billy Gill leaving the show. Is this bigger than what's happened with Stu? I guess, like, for me personally, I would say it is bigger than Stu leaving the show. Because has Stu really left yet? He's supposed to be back, and we'll get there. We're going to talk some about Stu in this episode too. You can table that to the side. We need to talk about Stu, but this is about Billy, and to me, this is the biggest like shocker in terms of Billy Gill leaving the show. Like there's no way to kind of like sugarcoat this, spin it. Like it's devastating as a fan of the show, as a fan of the Lebitard show and all the people on it, and even what the Lebitard show like stands for, the way they talk like their family. This is a show that Chris Cody was fired, and it was basically the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of the show leaving ESPN. Now, their days at ESPN was already numbered, but the show left ESPN, came together, and they weren't going to let Chris Cody go. But now, the most beloved member of the show left on his own accord. That like hurts. What's the morale? Like, Dan was prideful, like in like I don't really want to talk about that because I don't know. But as a fan of the show, like these are the things the shows communicate. Like you didn't expect Billy Gill to leave. It's a massive loss for the show and him moving on. He's easily the most loved member of the show in terms of, if you just think like everyone has their favorite, and for many Billy was their favorite. And even about, if you just go on vibes with the Reddit, like I can't think of anyone complaining about Billy ever. Like there are fans of Mike. I'm a fan of Mike, but there's a lot of people that complain about Mike. I don't know what their problem is. There's a lot of fools out there. I don't suffer fools, but nobody complained about Mike. I'm not going to go down the list of every other people and say, hey, I like this person. They complain about him too. Billy had, as far as I know, was like basically no complaints. Beloved member, and was one of the funniest members of the show. So like as a fan of the show, like it's a massive loss. They were developing an entire day of the week that was essentially dedicated to Billy and his shenanigans. And one of the things that makes the Billy Gill loss hurt from a fan perspective is in the back of your mind, like Dan and Stu, their time leading this show is coming to a close. I don't know when that is. I don't even know if Stugotz is ever going to be back on the show, but the writing has kind of been on the wall. Stu's been saying that, like, I won more contract on air, and he's mentioned this. So there's some of the things that's happening with Stu that's not a surprise. Like, if you were an astute listener of the show and someone who, listen to what other people said on different podcasts, you could see what was happening with Stu kind of like coming. And again, we'll pick back up with Stu. You didn't see what was coming with Billy. Also, just the shock of hearing that, like, oh, Friday's my last day, 2 days for fans to process that. But as a fan, you have kind of, the show's going to have to transition. And I've said this before, like, man, I think having a Billy and Mike led show would be a fun show. That's not going to happen now. Right? That transition of like giving Billy more space, that's not a future of the Dan Le Batard show. And he's started to now work for The Ringer, which Allison Turner, like there's people on the Reddit saying like, tell Dan it was me. Like it's, he's working with The Ringer Tailgate, and he's appeared on a Bill Simmons pod I've watched. Anytime he's been on, I've watched it. But honestly, there's like, I watch it because I enjoy Billy, but there's like a sadness to it because he's still doing his Billy shenanigans, but it's with other people. Like, feel like I'm watching Billy like cheat on the show in a way. But all that's like, Billy's entitled to do what he wants, right? And that's what he's chosen. Fine. But those are just my feelings. Like, I feel sad seeing Billy be on these new pods. Him on Bill Simmons, doing some picks and, very Billy Gill shenanigans, telling people to bet based on teams' rankings in their rivalry jerseys, which is such a small like sample set, and also just an irrelevant sample set. Classic Billy Gill chaos there, and seeing people bring him in and like already use him. There's a sadness because there's also part of me that the sadness is right now, currently, I'm still seeking out when Billy Gill's on, but I am not going to subscribe to the Ringer podcasts and listen to that diligently to get like a tiny bit of like Billy Gill. I already have too many podcasts that I listen to. Again, I listen to these podcasts at 3.5 times speed just to get through all the podcasts that I listen to. And I've already been debating, like, do I need to cut out some podcasts with all the craziness that's been in my life? There's been some podcasts now that I've just been marking as played and not listening to, or even there's some where like I'll save them for the weekend and power through a couple pods on the weekend after, well, I'm like doing dishes and stuff. So the sadness that's kind of there is, part of me knows like eventually I don't know if I'm going to seek these things out and seek out seeing Billy Gill. And it's kind of sad for me to realize like it's weird. You listen to these people talk all day, so you enjoy that, and that being gone is something you miss, right? Even though Billy doesn't know me, I don't know him. Just listened to him on a podcast, be funny, be entertaining. It was enjoyable. And I still seek that out, but there's this sadness because part of me knows like I'm not, there's too much Ringer stuff going on, and I don't know how long I'm going to seek out listening to Billy Gill. And again, it's like, I enjoy it, but there is like these mixed feelings of I'm seeing Billy do stuff with like other people now, and like you're missing some of the context. What was so great is Billy, the chaos that he caused, like you knew all the context as a fan. Le Batard show, it's just different. And yeah, like the vibes. Still enjoy the show. Still listen to the Le Batard show. Enjoy the show. I think the shows have been good since Billy Gill left. But there's when he left, like immediately, there's something that I thought of a famous C.S. Lewis quote on friendship. Of C.S. Lewis has this quote of like, if there's a group of 3 friends and you have friend A, B, and C, and A passes away, you not only lose friend A, you lose what friend A brings out of friend B and what friend A brings out of friend C, because only friend A can bring out those certain sides of your other friends. So when you lose that person, you don't just lose them, you lose how they relate to the other people. And that was what I actually immediately thought of like, man, this sucks, because not only do you lose Billy, you lose, like, I enjoy Tony on the show, but I enjoy like his relationship with Billy and Billy poking at him and egging at him. And hey, I'm not a hater, but I got to say Tony's vibe on the show without Billy is different. I need somebody to poke Tony. I need somebody to be agitated, but I've lost that person who does that from the show, right? So that's part of like the other aspect of it. Like, you don't just lose Billy, you lose what Billy brings out, the way that Billy can just derail an entire show, seeing other people respond to it, laugh at it, the way he can derail Dan. You lose all of that with losing Billy. So with that, I guess like Billy's final show, it's been a long time, but never talked about it. I mean, his top 5 with 34 OLIs. That was tremendous. Peepo returned. Peepo was incredible. Like, he was taking out Dan. It was a hilarious final episode for Billy, which again, it makes you feel sad, because, you know, he's leaving and Billy's at the top of his game and he's gone. And Peepo, that was incredible. He took out Skipper with his oh, are you high? Oh, I don't do that anymore, Mr. Peepo. Like, it was a fantastic final episode with Billy. And with that being said, like, you know, why did Billy leave the show? Like, from kind of his last day, is there things that you could glean? Are there theories as to why Billy left? Like, did Billy leave because he was because he was not satisfied? He was dissatisfied with his pay. He had that kind of thing with Peepo that made fun of Skipper, but that was probably based on a true conversation that he had with Skipper, and like Meadowlark, and kind of the failure of Meadowlark too is what truth was behind what Billy was revealing when he did his whole bit with Peepo. There's that saying, there's always a little bit of truth in a joke. Like, it was a joke, but what was the purpose of that joke? Talking about things vesting, like people on the Reddit had talked like, hey, this was probably an actual conversation he had with Skipper about how like he was going to get stock options in Meadowlark, but what are those options worth, and them vesting and all that. Like, is part of why Billy left the Dan Le Batard show is because he was not satisfied with the growth of Meadowlark and the direction of the company. Could that be part of it? I don't know. Just speculation. Reckless speculation, right? Hit the reckless speculation sounder. We're good. You can just imagine a guitar riff in the background here. This is all reckless. Another theory, was the rift between Dan and Stu too much? Like, was he being pulled at from too many sides, where he was just like, you know what? I can't handle this. I need a different job. Because it was awkward. And Billy was the one, like, it's funny, when Stu happened, Billy was talked about a lot, but there wasn't anybody who could see this coming, that what Stu has done with leaving the show, and we don't really even know what's that about. If you take it from Stu's angle, it seems like he's upset with Dan, but nobody speculated and saw that what was happening with Stu, would it affect Billy so much that he would want to leave and just take a new job with a better opportunity. Like, I'm not even clear what he's doing for The Ringer. Like, there's some stuff with The Ringer and Netflix, and it's mostly an off-air role, but you can already see, like, you know, Is it going to be a regular thing that he's on Bill Simmons as well? And it wouldn't surprise me if the Ringer Tailgate show like brings him in once a week as well too. Like, it says his role is mostly off air, and I guess it would be mostly off air if he's only been on like 2 podcasts, like once a week. Like, what else would he be doing throughout the day? But is what happened with Dan and Stu part of the reason why he left? To get back to that, it's a possibility, right? Like, that was severely dysfunctional, right? One day Stugotz was there. There's the awful announcing thing, which is also mentioned, finding out news about the show from awful announcing. As fans, we can now know, like, there's obviously some truth in that, because awful announcing was the first to announce that Stugotz was stepping back. The show kind of pushed back against that idea. And guess what? It turns out like Stugotz he's really stepped back from the show and focused on his own properties. Like, Stugotz's appearance have been never the same since then and non-existent. So it was like really dysfunctional. Was that dysfunctional work part of the reason why Billy Gill left? And even there were times where Dan also mentioned that he had conflict with Billy. Is that just something that Billy got tired of? I don't know. Again, reckless speculation. Is that why Billy Gill left? I would say it probably played a role. There's a little truth to jokes. There's a lot of jokes of him being tired of putting up with Stugotz. So I think there's some truth to that. Will we know? I don't know. Or last theory. And this for me, I think this would be like, for all these things, these are just things I'm throwing out here. I don't know anything, right? This is the one that I'd like to believe here out of all of them. I don't want to believe like, oh, all those things, but maybe Billy Gill left because he was always going to leave. And what do I mean by that? If you think about Billy Gill, there was no complaints about this guy, and people always wanted more of Billy. You think of some of the things that he did. Billy didn't beat bits into the ground. People always wanted more people, but Billy didn't give it, right? He moved on. Is that part of what made Billy so beloved on the show, that he always left people wanting more because he knew when to stop doing something and move on to something else? And is this move away from Meadowlark just represent that part of Billy Gill, that he focuses and enjoys on something, but when he's ready to move on, he moves on, right? Then I think that was the number one thing he was not going to miss, is people asking, where's Peepo? Was Billy Gill just ready to move on? Because that's the type of person that he is, that he loved and enjoyed his time with Meadowlark and the Dan Le Batard show. It was a great experience. It grew him a lot. And he just reached a point where he was ready to move on. As a fan, that's what I want to believe. Billy Gill, it hurts because you don't want them to move on and break up. But did Billy Gill leave the show just because he reached that point, because he was ready to move on? He was always going to leave at some point because Billy Gill moves on. He moved on from Peepo. People didn't want him to, but he did. Brought him back as maybe a final thank you. And one last thing to think about. I mean, his final thing on Mystery Crate, he said goodbye for now, which I was kind of like, man, here was my initial response. I didn't like it. I'm like, if you're gone, be gone. Don't say something like gone for now and imply that you're like, oh, still make regular guest appearances. And maybe that's what he has in mind. But now as I sit there and think, like, I don't think this will happen, but is there a future in which Billy Gill does appear back on the Le Batard show? Like, could he be a weekly guest on the Dan Le Batard show and do like a Rossini length hit? Could he do a Mina Kimes length hit on a regular basis? Would the Ringer in his former job allow that? Would he even want to do that again? But is that a possibility, or will he just like every once in a while he'll be on Mystery Crate and stuff? Like, I don't know what'll happen. Time will tell with Billy Gill. I would, if you maybe play a little game of like gun to your head, you have to choose, I'd say no. I don't think so. Like, he's left Meadowlark, and again with that same thing of just moving on, I don't think you then like do a weekly thing with the Dan Le Batard show. And if you're the Ringer, like, would you let your employee go back to essentially like their ex-employee and still become kind of like a regular part of it? I don't think so. Like, Bill Simmons, the Ringer, you got Billy Gill, you want to keep him. It's like, no. And they had on Stu's show, transitioning to Stu, they had one of the Ringer tailgate people. I think it was like Joel, maybe. I don't know. Joel. Yeah, I think Joel. On the show. And he's like, oh, Stu mentioned like Billy Gill's not texting me back to come on the show. And he was like, oh, I'll talk to Billy. We'll make it happen. I was like, when that happened, I was like, you can't say that. Like, who are you to tell Billy, like, yeah, go on? Like, you hardly know Billy now. You hardly know his reasons for not coming on the show. And you're going to like guarantee that you'll make it happen. No reason that he can't come and be on like Stugotz podcast. Maybe it'll happen, but I think right now Billy Gill is taking space. I'm not going to read into it like people on the Reddit and say, oh, there's Billy and Stu aren't getting along. I think, although I've theorized that perhaps Stugotz rift with the show is something that could have left to Billy Gill, could have contributed to Billy Gill leaving. I think even if they had a good relationship, it seems like Billy Gill is someone like, he's moving. He's going to take his time getting settled and then do these things. Like, there's no beef between him and Greg Cody, but he's not on the Greg Cody show, right? He's not on the Fan Le Batard show. He's not on God Bless Highlight. I didn't reach out. I was tempted. I was like, he was on God Bless Highlight. He did say, hey, you can have me back. I'd love to be back. And I thought about, hey, maybe I'll get him back to come on God Bless Highlight. I hate saying this because I'm really like, man, just shoot your shot. But no, we're not going to ask Billy Gill to come on God Bless Highlight. But Stu's supposed to be back. He's been mentioned on the show. They did a bit of like Stugotz, You're Under the Table with Amin. I think technically he said so many days ago on a Ringer, no, not a Ringer, on a Barstool podcast that he would be back in like 30 to 40 days. But Dan has mentioned like Stu was supposed to be in, like they've said like he's on the schedule, but he's not on the show. So Billy Gill's gone. Is Stu gone as well? Maybe, like, because at this point it's kind of like he's been gone for so long, and there's so many times that Stu has said things and just not been reliable, that it's kind of like, from Stu's perspective, like, you've already started and poured in like so much work that it's like, why come back to the show? And you have to think like it's going to be so awkward when he does like come back, that's just, it's weird. So I've been listening to Stugotz's new show, and that's honestly, it's one of the shows that I've been thinking about. Is it a show that I need to cut? Hate to say it. Let's get these out here, huh? You hear all this rumbling and long pause. I got 9 of these Stugotz personal record books. Bought them a long time ago. Should have done something about this sooner before Stugotz went missing. What am I going to do with all these personal record books, Stu? Huh? Come on this podcast. Let the fans know the truth. Are you going to come on the Fan Le Batard show to talk about the Dan Le Batard show? Spill the beans on your personal record of what's happened. Because honestly, I've been thinking about cutting the show. And, I listen to both and I'm like, why do I need to listen to both? They both talk about the same things. The takes aren't all that different. I will say, shout out to Stu. He gets great guests. You see that, so many guests every single day. So he's working. He's putting in work. But I think part of the thing where, I've thought about that this might be a show that I need to drop just to save time, because him starting that show has added so much podcast time. I exclusively listen to that show at over 3 times speed, because it's actually easy to listen to at that speed. There's not a lot of people talking over each other. And I think part of the issue is it's kind of a one-note show. The Le Batard show is more nuanced than Stu's show. The Stu show, they talk sports. I enjoy the way they talk sports. They have some fun. They have some funny in it. But that's kind of it. And it's mostly fun and funny. I think the Le Batard show actually does a much better job giving you the fun and funny and still good sports talk that you want to hear. And Stu's show kind of feels a little bit shallow in comparison to the Dan Le Batard show, even though he has some great guests. And he has Hawk on, which when that first started, I enjoyed it. I enjoy Hawk. I think he's funny. I enjoyed the two of them together, but they did recently do we're going to do our own remembering Le Batard show history. And I got to let me tell you, I got some news for you. When they first did that, I felt a little icky. I was like, this is kind of gross, guys. Hawkman complained a little bit about the oral history. But honestly, if fans' reactions and how they told that story, I think he came out looking fine. And I think a lot of people sided with him over Dan. So I don't get his complaints. But the two of them, the oral history's gone. And that was something that fans of the show, I think it was something that universally people liked. And there was a lot of people that were kind of hard on Dan as a result of it. But you get kind of Mark and Stu together and they're talking about doing this thing, and there's just kind of this vibe to it, we're going to tell our side of it. And it's you stopped the oral history though, essentially, Stu, from continuing. It was something that fans liked, and you're we're doing it to tell our side of things. But it's not like the other side was this whitewash, made Dan look good. It was a really interesting, well done, and I thought well told. And obviously I don't know the things they know, but I don't know. It just felt icky the first time they did it. And it felt like they were going in on Dan a little bit. I don't know. I did enjoy the one they did with Caliendo, but again, it still just felt icky. You guys complained about the oral history. Stu's the reason essentially that it stopped, and you're gonna kind of not do the one and finish the one that fans enjoyed, and you're gonna instead like start your own. That was when I started thinking like I might need to drop like Stu's show. And then that's like, I still haven't done it yet because I enjoy Stu. I like Stu. I have 9 copies of his book. Okay. I'm a fan of Stugotz, right? Some would say there isn't a bigger fan, but I've contemplated and am contemplating letting go of that show and saying goodbye to Stugotz, because I don't have, who has the time to listen to all these podcasts, even at 3.5 times speed? Who has that time? Who has that time to read 9 copies of this book? I'm getting to it. I haven't even read the book Is This Thing either. So I just feel like I'm rambling. This episode probably wasn't even any good because it's been a long time. I didn't plan this out as well as I wanted to. But what would I say? Stu, come back on the Dan Le Batard show. That's actually what I need. Otherwise, I think I am going to eventually just stop listening to Stugotz and company because I might be ready to move on. I enjoy Stugotz, but I miss him on the Dan Le Batard show. Come back on the show and stick to what you agreed to and what you said. Be reliable. I don't know. There. Hey, what are your thoughts, guys? Because I'm out of stuff to say, and I don't know. I enjoy the Le Batard show. I don't even know what I'm saying now. So we're just gonna. I don't enjoy talking about it in this way, like, right? But again, there's no way to sugarcoat it, and there's honestly no way to sugarcoat what's happening with Stu. And I guess from a fan perspective here, like we'll end it on this. I just like somebody fill me in and let me know, because there's all this nebulous, like, I don't know. I could fill in the blanks there, but like this is a show that's, said we love our fans, how they stick with us, and we take you behind the curtain. Take me behind the curtain of Stugotz, and why don't you hash this thing out, fellas, or move on from it, right? Because I still enjoy the Le Batard show, and from a fan perspective, I'm kind of tired, like, Stugotz is going to be back. Where's Stugotz? What's happening? Like, either he comes back or he doesn't come back, and it's over. But let's just get that over with too. And that's it for the Fan Le Batard show this week. We'll see when we're back next time. Nasty Nate out.